my gosh. I have missed you so much.
Girl, I have missed you so much
I
too.
feel
And today we have extra reason to be excited. Like, I've been percolating all week for this, and we are here today with Jim Henson's Creature Shop with Jerry Nokon, Melissa Crichton, and Ari Hawkins.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hello. How about everyone introduces themselves and their role, and then we can dive into. How about you start, Jeremy?
Hi, yes, I'm Jeremy Nokon. I am Vice President of Business Development of the Jim Henson's Creature Shop. And so my role at the Creature Shop is I develop new projects and I oversee the operation of the Creature Shops.
And Melissa?
Hi, I'm Melissa Crichton. I'm the Senior Production Manager in the New York Creature Shop. And so I oversee the production, all the production that happens in New York.
Hello, my name is Ari Hawkins. I am the Director of Digital Production at the Jim Henson Company, and I also function as a digital producer on a lot of our animated shows. The department that I am in charge of, we are the shepherds of a process called HDPS, which I'll tell you a little bit more about later. But it's a sort of experimental type of digital puppetry.
Very cool. So I suppose let's dive into it. And let's start off with what brought you into the industry and also Jim Henson's Creature Shop. I think that's where we should start. All right, so
yeah.
Jeremy, should I start? Or
yeah, you were Ari. Go ahead, Melissa.
So I don't want to take too much time, but my love of puppetry is what brought me to the Jim Henson Company originally. And I've worked here twice. So I worked here originally many years ago in 1998. Remember the 90s? And I was the photo coordinator. So I was just right out of college, had a coordinator job here, and really loved working with everyone, and had a love for puppetry, but not a lot of production experience. The company changed kind of over the years, and I ended up leaving, becoming a puppeteer, a puppet builder, but always managing projects along the way. So almost 20 years are between my first job at the Jim Henson Company and now currently. And when I came back, I came directly to the Creature Shop, and there was a management position open, the one that I have now. So 7 years ago, I applied for this with all the experience of performing on television shows and touring with puppet companies and building and managing projects all along the way. And now I'm for the past 7 years, production manager at the workshop here. And so one of the unique things about me in this position is that I have all that experience of performing and building and being on the other side of working with puppets that I bring to the client experience here at the workshop.
That's wonderful. Let's hand it off to Ari.
Hi. So I would say my career trajectory has been a little bit all over the place. I started out in animation, I went to live action, and kind of similar to Melissa, there was a while that I was building puppet costumes and I was building puppets. I got my first job at Henson a really long time ago as I was a fabrication assistant and a puppet wrangler on a few different projects. Then I went over to Fox, worked in animated content for a while, then came back to Henson when they had a managerial position on a show called Word Party in about 2015. So I've been here ever since then, doing a lot. And my job right now actually touches on a lot of those skills because I have a pretty heavy animation background, but I also have production and puppetry and stop motion and like a lot of different kind of disciplines. I think that's one thing you'll see a lot with people at Henson is we all have like a lot of different skills, and it's a good place to end up if you happen to kind of be one of those people that does possess a lot of different interests and skills. So it's a good spot for me.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh, Jeremy.
Oh, Me
It's
next.
your turn.
How do I give you guys the short version? I actually have a really non-traditional route to how I got this job. I come from a family of lawyers, and I was pretty much pegged to be a lawyer from birth. When I was in law school, I realized I didn't want to. Being a lawyer for the rest of my life was not in the cards for me, and I struck a deal with my dad, and he said, "Pass the bar exam, you could do whatever you want." And I did that, and I always knew that I wanted to go into entertainment. I really loved the process of filmmaking, and yeah, and how shows were produced, films and shows were produced and made. So I really worked my way into the independent film scene in Philadelphia, and after a couple projects, I moved to Los Angeles, and it wasn't an easy road when I got here in 2008, especially because of the writer strike, and the economy kind of tanked. And but I lucked into this position at Henson, and when I lucked in, it was, I had to take some chances and to get noticed for this sales associate position that I saw posted on the Henson website. And rather than writing a traditional cover letter, I actually took a chance and I wrote a script as my cover letter. And just to kind of give you a sample of it, it kind of started off like interior day, hiring manager, young, good looking, but clearly overworked, sits behind two monumental stacks of resumes and cover letters. And it kind of starts from there, and it ends with the hiring manager calling my cell phone, and with me picking up, and it says to be continued. And within days, Henson called me and in for an interview. And throughout the whole interview process, they said, "You want to be a writer?" And I said, "No, I just wanted to show you that I know how to get your attention," because that was the whole point of a sales associate position. And I got the job a couple months later, and I just haven't looked back since. I've been here 12 years.
Oh my gosh, that is quite the trajectory. I think for all of you, like it's just so interesting that it's not like a linear path for everyone. Like you do this and then you do this and then you do this and here you are. By the way, if anyone hears the locomotive in the background, I apologize. This is the time they come out at the park I work at. So, toot toot. Anywho,
Can I jump back in?
Yes, please do.
I had never heard that. I knew that Jeremy had written the script, instead of a resume. I think I'd heard part of that story, but I didn't know that they kind of challenged you, Jeremy. Like, are you sure you really don't want to be a writer? And that reminded me that when I interviewed for my position, they kept asking me, are you sure you aren't going to leave us for a performing gig? because I had been puppeteering and I had been touring with a theater company. So I think that's interesting. They just want to make sure. Are you sure this is really the job?
You're like,
yes, I'm not a performer.
Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. So with all of your different career paths, you just must bring so much to the company. And like, I don't say that to like make you toot your own horn or anything, but it's really great how each of your personal backgrounds just enhances your role now. And I think that's exciting for me, kind of new to the industry, to see that like every part of my background can help. So that's awesome. So about the creature workshop, or excuse me, God, creature shop. Sorry, my brain is in workshop mode. Can you give us a brief overview of like the company itself?
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know that most people understand that.
The creature shop. I might be biased. It's one of the most fun departments of the company. We're a creative arm of the Jim Henson Company, and we've got three divisions. We've got a creature shop in Los Angeles, a creature shop in New York, and we also have a digital creature shop that Ari overseas. In the digital creature shop, like Ari mentioned, we've got a proprietary technology called the Henson Digital Puppetry Studio System. So we're doing real-time animation out of Ari's division of the creature shop. And we work in all the genres: film, television. We do a lot in advertising. We work with music, and by music I mean musical acts, artists like Gaga, Deadmau5, Kanye, and we've also done a lot of live experiential. And of course, over the last, almost a decade now, we've been involved in themed entertainment, which is one of our favorite industries that we work in. And we're also starting to do a lot of work in Broadway, which is very exciting for us. But at the heart of who we are, we're a character company. We create characters and bring them to life through the art of puppetry. And we've got this this background and this foundation that we've built, and this brand that we've built in film and television. And we want to take that creative toolkit that harnessed and honed in film and TV and apply it in the themed entertainment space to be able to create some really great attractions that keep people coming back.
Oh my gosh, that is, I don't even know how you summarized all of that as succinctly as you did, but amazing. I mean, obviously, because you're such a great storyteller.
Thank you.
So can we get into some of the projects that y'all have worked on and some of the cool stuff?
Sure,
Not
yeah.
that this wasn't cool, but God, my brain. Oh, y'all are awesome.
Well, we mentioned the Henson Digital Puppetry Studio System, so I'd love for us to kind of touch on that, and Ari can talk about that and the projects that we've worked on there.
Sure. So HDPS, or the Henson Digital Puppetry System, it's a performance-based CG animation system. And what that means is it allows animated characters to be performed and to interact with people in real time, exactly like they were human characters. So you can direct them, they can sort of back and forth with audience members. It's exactly like they were real, only they're on screen. And the way that we do that is through a mix of proprietary hardware and software that we developed in our studio. That is, it's a little bit like, you're thinking of facial motion capture and body motion capture, but it's actually a lot more expansive than that, because it allows you to not be constrained to the capabilities of just a standard human body. So we can expand on it. We can do way more cartoony expressions. We do things where we build outriggers on people where they have, they can have like a giant butt, or they can do all kinds of things that you wouldn't be able to do with just a human being. So that's a really fun aspect of it. And I think, it's especially we use it on a lot of our kids shows because we find that children really respond to it very positively. So that's fun because it's sort of like the characters are there right in front of you. We've been doing this for a really long time, but recently we have started to integrate with the Unreal Engine, which what that does for us is it allows us to plus up the visual quality quite a bit of there. So there's a lot more realism. We can do real-time lighting, which we were never able to do before. So that's something we're really excited about that we've been working very hard to integrate. And we have some projects right now that we're working on with the engine, and it's looking very cool, and we're really excited for people to see it.
Yeah, well, one of the projects that we really focused on with the digital puppetry system was the project at Hershey's Chocolate World, the 4D chocolate mystery, and that's exactly that. Yeah, and what we're able to do there is we've got a real-time character interacting with the crowd in between the pre-recorded animated segments, and the crowd can actually drive different endings, because we actually created the show with multiple branch points, so that when you watch the show, it's never the same show twice. So it's totally crowd driven. So if the live character comes on screen and says, "Kids, should we send the bad guy to jail?" stomp your feet, and they stomp their feet in the theater, and the puppeteer on the live character takes the response, because they get a live feed to the audience watching in the theater, and they'll queue up another animated branch point that gives that outcome. So it's very much audience driven.
Cool. We've got a question from AY or A. How has your digital puppetry system advanced since the Waldo systems coined by Henson in the 90s? Where do you see the future of digital puppetry going? That's a great question. The Waldo system, the Waldo system is sort of the grandfather of what we use today. It's very similar in execution. Like it involves hand controls, but what we do now, there's just a lot more nuance to it. We've added a lot more functionality. We have things like we have algorithmic animation that can happen. So if a character moves, like we had a show called Splash and Bubbles on PBS, where there were fishes that would swim, but as they moved around in the water, their tails and their fins would react. And that's not something that would have to be puppeteered. So we've incorporated all those kinds of things where you can add just a lot more subtlety and nuance to the performance. And I think the future of digital puppetry, I think, there's two different paths that it's going to go. I think one path is going to be, super, super high-end feature film level. And that is going to, the graphical quality of the image is going to get much better. And it's going to kind of just, it'll become more and more integrated. And then there's also, I think, a sort of a smaller footprint version of that is going to be something that we're working on as well for sort of a more kind of consumer level, which is also something really exciting.
It's like mind blowing, like, because I'm not in puppetry, or like I don't know anything about it. That literally just blew my mind. I was sitting back there like, that's amazing. Do we have a second to talk about some like non-traditional projects? I don't know.
I mean, there's very few traditional projects, I would say.
I think a lot of the stuff that we do in themed entertainment, it's all kind of non-traditional, because this is not an industry where like we've got our roots in, but we're slowly making our roots in there. And I think if you look at kind of like the body of work that we've worked on in themed entertainment over the last few years, like Mr. Ping at Universal Studios Hollywood, and then the Smilodon at Natural History Museum Los Angeles, and also another digital interactive character at Georgia Aquarium, as well as the projects that Melissa's been working on in terms of like stage theatrical puppets. We're taking our experience and expertise, and we're adapting it to the space. And what we've found is that there's a really cool translation there. One of the projects I'd love Melissa to chat about is the Snuffy experience at Sesame, because that's a great example of where you took a puppet or a suit that we've made and translated to the themed entertainment space. So I'm going to kick it over to Melissa.
Yeah, so we've actually had two opportunities to take, we work with Sesame Street, and we design, build, and maintain all the domestic Sesame characters and international for all the international productions. And then we've had a few opportunities to take and build those characters for theme parks too. The most recent one was a new Snuffy character for Sesame Place. And of course there he is. So you can see, looking at this Snuffy, he's the same design, proportions, same character as the Snuffy that you see on television, but different in a few ways. first of all, he needs to interact with the public. And so kids come up and give him a hug, and families, touch him and interact with him. And so he needed to be built in a way to be more durable and withstand kind of that level of interaction with the public. And then also only one performer is inside the Sesame Place stuff. He doesn't walk around. So we didn't need the performer to perform the hind section, and they wanted him to be sitting down so the performer could get in there and really stay in for a long window of time. The TV performers really stay in for shorter windows. They get the take, they get the shot, and then they unzip them and let them out for a break. But the Sesame Place performers are really in for a long period of time, so they can really interact with a big group of people. And so we rebuilt him with a gimbal inside and a stand. So the back is a piece of metal that can balance and move up and down, so the performer is really inside of it, just one person manipulating the mouth, the eyes, and also just a little bit of the front section, but really the puppet could be supported on its own. So there was a lot of kind of thinking and re-engineering to make that work for their specific needs. And then the one other recent Sesame production that we did in themed entertainment was for a dark ride for a theme park in Spain, which won a Thea Award. So it was a Sesame dark ride, and we built versions of the puppets that are animatronic and used for a dark ride.
So, okay.
Guys, and I think there's a question too I saw in the comments from AY. What are some of the challenges of creating puppets, characters for themed entertainment versus creating them for the screen? Great question. And that was something that we had to really face at the very beginning when we entered the themed entertainment business. When we make puppets, like if it's a creature, a soft hand puppet, or a walk around suit, it's usually made to last a production. But when we worked in themed entertainment, we soon realized that we had to make it to last decades, because it had to be like robust and road tested. Especially if there was going to be multiple performers, like performing a character, or if it's a walk around suit wearing the walk around suit, and there's multiple people wearing it versus one performer. That's usually the case when we're working in film and television. And we adapted very well. We looked at different kinds of materials, different fabrication approaches. But Melissa can speak to this as well, as she's done a lot of themed entertainment work and overseen a lot of our projects. But it's really, we just had to kind of revisit some of our fabrication approaches and the materials that we were using. But for the most part, our artists and all the technicians at the Creature Shop, they did a fantastic job adapting to it.
Yeah, just to jump in, if that's okay. It's true. It's about durability and longevity. And, you make something for 8 performances weekly. It's a different kind of rigor to that performance than there is to a television performance, where your wrangler is standing by to make little adjustments minute by minute. And, when the shoot day is over, the puppets can be attended to. Whereas with Broadway, you really have to build something to withstand the rigors of a full performance before somebody can touch those puppets. But another thing that we always need to assess is, where is the audience? So you say for television, they're right there, especially with HD and 4K or 5K, and that everything has to look beautiful at the closest level of detail. But then Broadway, people are much further away. So then all of the characteristics need to be more broad strokes and larger. And even further away in a theme park, we just did a big production for a Vietnamese theme park, Vin Pearl. And that was the Phoenix that you saw in kind of the opening. Yeah, there it is. So this is a huge, I can't remember the wingspan, 18-foot wingspan bird puppet manipulated by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, at least 7 performers. And it needed to be seen at a great distance. The audience is actually behind a wall, and there's water and fire effects. And so we really needed to create something that was going to draw audience's attention at that distance, and also considering everything else that's going on, on stage when the puppet is there. So there's a lot to consider. We've done tests even with some of the classic, say like a classic existing Sesame character that then needs to translate to stage or the theme park space. We need to do testing to see how big or how do we need to adjust those characters' features just to make sure they still read at that distance.
We had another pretty great question from Theme Park Concepts. Hey, Kira. Have there been any attempts to combine digital puppetry with virtual production volumes?
My dog had an answer to that question as well.
Yes.
Yeah, so I can answer that one. I'm so glad you asked. Digital puppetry and virtual production have sort of been inextricably linked since its inception. Virtual production is something that people talk about a lot now. It's kind of like a hip buzzword, but we've actually been doing what is essentially virtual production for about, 20 years or so now. And the way that works is we have a full stage, and it functions like a 3-camera sitcom stage. And we have virtual cameras that we've developed and built on site. And it does function almost exactly like you were shooting just a 3-camera sitcom. And we can also do single camera, but we do have the 3. We have handheld. So it's a really fun creative experience for directors of television and film content. I would say, we don't tend to do a virtual production type approach for anything location based, because so far in our experience, when you have something location based, you have just like a character that you have interacting outward facing with an audience. You don't necessarily want to, you can create a cinematic, but ideally you want to create a sense of realism as if the character is right there, which you wouldn't want to have like a sort of cinematography angle on. We do things like we've done things where we have a painting, we put a picture frame around a monitor on the wall, and then the character in the painting will all of a sudden start talking to people who are walking by, like, oh, hey there, you in the blue shirt. So that's a really different approach, and that's a lot smaller footprint. But when we're doing something like a TV or a film shoot, that's a full-on virtual production paradigm, which is very fun.
So it seems as though the teams are very much diverse in order to bring an experience to life, whether or not it's digital or for theme parks or for performances. So when you're building the teams within the workshop, like what sorts of artists do you look to hire? How does one become involved?
That's a great question.
Well, I can start it off, and because Melissa and Ari both have a ton of input on this as well. We're always crewing up. So what we do, the way the Creature Shop operates is we've got small teams that are there that are on staff full time, and then as projects come in, we expand and expand and expand. And the teams and artists that we're always looking to add to those teams are sculptors, fabricators, molders, animatronic specialists, it's all these people who have these specialties that we're trying to identify. And then on the digital side, Ari can speak to this, but people that are trained in all the software and the tools and the game engines and what ends up happening is like the easiest way I would ever advise anyone to break in is if you're multifaceted and you've got skill sets that can expand throughout a project, it gives you a leg up because for a long time, a lot of our industry and what we've seen lately is that there's a lot of specialists. But when someone can do the sculpt, then also work on the mold team, and then also fabricate, and also be part of the finishing team, then all of a sudden you've got someone that that's you never want to let go, because that person, no matter at whatever stage of a project, can come in and work and add value to the team.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think, a lot of times we're looking for someone that can do exactly what we need them to do. It's a 3D, we know exactly what it is and we need someone who's done it before. But then other times we're really just looking for someone with applicable skills. So someone who's done something similar, someone that you can see through the work that they're showing in their portfolio or in their experience, or what you hear about them, you can tell that they're problem solvers. And a lot of the times we're doing projects with people or techniques that we haven't done before. And that's what keeps us doing work that is fresh and unique and cutting edge. So we're really looking for people that can push the envelope with us and that can be doing things that they haven't done before either. So
yeah, to Melissa's point, we're about problem solvers, and Ari sees this a lot in her field too. The Creature Shop has always been at the forefront of innovation. And if we can work with folks that want to innovate with us and can bring new ideas and fresh concepts to the table, it's very exciting. And I think that if I had to give like a rating to like one of the top skill sets, problem solving is one of the best ones, because more likely than not, people that come that want to work for Henson have applicable skills, but how do they take those skills and actually solve the problems that you encounter when you're trying to create something practical or something animated based on a 2D sketch and bring that to life?
So how does that, well, I'm not sure that's the best way to start it, but for Ari, how does that translate for your particular area of the role of being more digital? Is that correct? More digital, where you're more, well, it's a hybrid.
Yeah, there's a lot more of a technology side to what we do in our department than other puppetry-based things. I would say he's got like this crinkly toy now that I should have taken that away from him before I started doing this. Oh well. Yeah, I think for us, it's basically not possible to have experience doing digital puppetry like exactly. I mean, there's very few other places that have some kind of vaguely similar process, but mostly it's we're trying to find people who have a really good knowledge of coding languages. I'm always happy to meet people who have experience in Unreal, whether from an artistic side or from a technical direction side, anything like that. We're also always looking for people who do mechanical and electronic engineering, because we have the physical component of our control systems that are in need of maintenance. So, circuit boards, machining parts, all that kind of stuff. We're always interested to meet talent that has that skill set. And as far as, joining the team just as an artist, we love a Maya generalist. We have a lot of Maya generalists on our staff because there are a lot of different things that are part of our process. And then, for production folks, and I think in general too, it's like having the willingness to learn, because you are not going to know everything when you start. There will be a bunch of stuff that will be confusing. And it's the kind of people that are okay with that, are excited by that, and then are really are willing to do the work to say, hey, I don't really understand I don't understand that. I'm going to ask about that. I'm going to learn about that. And those kind of people are super huge assets to us, as opposed to people who are just going to kind of wait for us to explain everything and kind of just do what they are told when we tell them. We're really into sort of self-starters, because we're all a bunch of scrappy people. So
I second all of that. And also, and also we're looking for people who can work quickly. That is because a lot of, you're always putting together a team, right? So you want people, and sometimes it's a team of two, and often you'll pair someone who has experience with someone who has less experience, or someone who's a sculptor mold maker with someone who does, patterning and works with fabrics. And sometimes you'll be pairing someone, hard skills with soft skills, and you're really, or hard materials, soft materials, things like that. You're always trying to really create good teams of people, but you need people who work well in a group, work well with other people. The workshop is a big open space right outside my office here. And there's, a tool room and a spray room and a dye room and workstations, and it's all very collaborative. And you need to be okay with somebody kind of passing by and having an opinion about what you're doing. And often that's what makes it better, having to talk about your work but then also getting it done on time. I think a lot of creative people are, used to working late into the night or through the weekend and things like that. And we really try not to do that, because our clients aren't available for feedback, on, say, Sunday morning or, late night. So we really do push to work together as a group and work really up against our deadlines, always respecting that deadline and respecting our client and needing them to see things, before they're done, and all of those really important parts of working with clients.
We had another awesome question come in. Yeah, it's like on. I don't know how to pronounce your name, so I apologize if I keep pronouncing it. But A Stein is in my head how I pronounce that. Do Henson animators and programmers often have experience in puppet building, or vice versa? How did these sets of skills work together for digital-based projects?
So I would say that they don't, Henson animators, especially, programmers and animators are super different things. Programmers probably there's very little overlap between, software development and puppet building, but I would say animators and designers and model builders, while they do not tend to have experience building puppets, there's a common thread that's very important to everything we do at Henson, which is the design and performability of characters. And that's something that, the people who do our models and design our characters on the digital side, we all have to be really conversant in, what are the facial features of a character that makes it look good as a puppet, that makes it kind of engaging for the audience. Because, for example, you don't want the eyes to be too far apart. Stuff like that, where it's all about maintaining the connection to the audience. And I'm glad you asked how the skill sets work together, because it kind of harkens back to a question you asked before about the future of digital puppetry. And I forgot to mention this, but I think that a big part of the future of digital puppetry is going to be hybridization. So when we're talking about like having there be a live action shoot where you see a puppet, but maybe the puppet is not 100% physical. Maybe we have tracking of their eyelids or their eyeballs or possibly their mouth. And then you do live comping, all that kind of stuff, integrating, because I think that's really where the strength, that's a very strong visual presentation when you can really nail the CG aspect of it, but you're not necessarily noticing that it's CG versus it's a practical puppet. Like, it should just be something that feels real to you. And whatever we can do to support that is something that we're always looking to plus up.
Very cool. So how about we dive into more about your individual job responsibilities? Can we start with Jeremy?
Sure. Yeah. It's actually good that we're starting with me because when it comes to like third-party jobs and work that we do in themed entertainment, it usually starts with myself because I'm in the role of business development. So my job is to develop and first of all identify leads and develop them into real actual projects. And along the way, I bring in folks from my production and my creative team to help develop the projects with our prospective clients. And my ultimate goal is to secure the job for the teams. So once the contracts are signed and all the paperwork's out of the way, I step out of the way and turn it over to my team, and they run with it, they execute it, and I'm just there with a bowl of popcorn, enjoying the show. And what the best part of my job is actually seeing it come together, and seeing this germ of an idea come to life into this like full-fledged practical 3D asset and character more often than not that we see.
And let's hand it off to Melissa.
So my job after Jeremy kicks a project over to the New York workshop, and sometimes there's a bit of figuring out, does it make more sense in New York or does it make more sense in LA? Sometimes based on our production pipeline, sometimes where the client is located. If someone's in Australia, it might be a little easier for us to line up with their time zone here on the East Coast versus West Coast. Sometimes we'll share a project between the two shops. But once it makes it to me at the New York workshop, I am the first point of contact with the client. So my job is to help them figure out what they want and the timeline and the budget. And then once we have clarity on that, then I put together a team within our workshop. And I'm a real matchmaker when it comes to figuring out who's going to work on the project. A lot of times, if we're building a walk-around puppet or a parade-style puppet, I need people that have that technical experience. They've done it before and they can do it again. But I might also bring in some new people, depending on how big of a budget it is, and who can add something new to the project, or maybe a painter or some fabricator that has something new to offer for that specific project. And then I just take care of all the nuts and bolts of making it happen. I shoot photos and video throughout the process and update the client along the way. And then I communicate that feedback back to our team on the floor and help them get everything done, on time, incorporating feedback along the way. And that's just the build. So after that, the project is either going to theater, theme park, or television film. And then we can provide the people that wranglers and performers and the people that it takes to make that part of the production happen as well. So I really take the project, hold the hand of the client all the way through the design process, fabrication, and then taking it to the stage. And then, I know I sounded like I was finished. Those projects they always come back. They want to take that puppet on tour, or they want to do something they hadn't imagined in the first place. So we'll take care of building more puppets to fill out the cast, or cleaning them before they go out to a new location, or doing all sorts of refurb or modifications or whatever's needed. So we maintain contact with those clients, and we're always available to them when they want to take the project to the next stage.
That's a great point that Melissa just brought up, and it's a point I can't stress enough. Is when we work with clients, we look at building long-term relationships with people. It's not just a one and done situation. Like we're fortunate that outside of themed entertainment, we're doing a lot of film and television, because the Jim Henson Company is an engine of creativity that's constantly creating new projects for the creature shops to work on. So we get to be selective about who we want to work with. As the Jim Henson's Creature Shop, when it comes to third-party projects. And when we find clients that we want to work with, we want to build a relationship with them. And part of that relationship is being able to service their project throughout the run. So a lot of times what we're doing is we're not just building the initial piece and saying, here you go, we're done. It's like, what else do you need? How, what kind of maintenance service can we provide you? So there's this long standing relationship that can run for years on end. Yeah, well, a prime example of that is our relationship with Coca-Cola. And we've been working with them since the mid-90s when we created the very first Coca-Cola Polar Bear, which you see in all the Coca-Cola meet and greet experiences at Coca-Cola Worlds all around the country. And we've got an amazing maintenance operation with them where we're constantly maintaining the Coca-Cola Polar Bears for their entire operation.
That's amazing. Ari, would you like to share your role? Because I'm so into whatever you're doing. I feel like I'm fangirling.
It's airy. So I think my job is similar to Melissa's in that, there will be a new project that comes in, and I will do the budget and schedule, and we'll kind of go over that. We'll figure out just sort of the logistics of the project. Then I do hiring. Then we kind of set everything up. But I would say in digital, we do a lot of different kinds of projects because we are involved not only in the creation of the assets, but we are sometimes involved in the execution of the TV show itself. So that would be especially when we're doing a fully animated show, we will create everything. We will go on set and we'll shoot everything. And then in the end, we are also responsible for cleaning up the animation, rendering it out, at that point, it turns into almost exactly the same as a traditional CG show. It's the exact same thing you would go through if you were doing like a Pixar movie or anything like that. So it's a sort of a twofold process, I would say. Some of our shows, we will create something that is meant to be performed and that will be exactly what it is as soon as it is performed. That would be the kind of stuff we would do for themed entertainment. Because obviously if you're doing themed entertainment, you don't have time to go through and like add a bunch of stuff. So you're just aiming to have it be like when it's done, when it's ready, that's what it is. And we do things like that as well for example, Earth to Ned on Disney Plus. We had a character that appeared on that show. And that was something that was done entirely on camera, and we had no post at all for the character of Betty specifically. And that was something that that was just what it was right on the day. It was exactly as it appeared on the show. There was no trickery involved after the fact.
Thank you, by the way. Thank you so much for correcting me because I really hate messing up people's names. So
it's fine. It happens all the time.
No, I'm really thankful when people correct me because I would go like years and years mispronouncing someone's name. So I'm super glad that you did that. That's awesome. So I know that each one of you have had like a lot of learning experiences over your career. So like, what are some key things that you've learned throughout your life in the industry or even away from it that you can share? Melissa. Okay, if I go with you.
Yeah. I can share one thing just to start. But I think, I think the way to say it is to not always give the client only what they say they want, if that makes sense. So, because then you get caught maybe doing something you've done before or not doing something that could be more exciting. And so I think that, I have my job is creative, but it's also very administrative. And so then I need to always access my creative voice when I'm working with the client. I don't mean railroading over them and saying, they want something red and, wouldn't it be great if it was purple? No, I just mean that we have the creativity on the floor in the workshop with the fabricators and with our management group is we have a lot to offer there. And so I think that we've, I've seen in the past, you can kind of get caught only giving someone what they're asking for. And so we always try to always offer more, always put a spin on things, always, they're asking for something that's furry. Maybe we're going to do some fringe with some weird new material. They're asking for something that's a creature or monster, and maybe we're going to push them toward, another style of character. And it's really like just always taking those opportunities to really infuse every project with all those years of creativity and experience that we have here at our fingertips in the workshop.
That is amazing advice. Like just across the board for all creatives. You're like just gonna steal that advice. Thank you so much. Ari, do you want to go next?
Sure, I have so many things. I definitely agree with what Melissa said. I think there's a lot of the time where you're looking at the spirit of the note is how I say it, where like if somebody says, oh, well, I think that this person should say this, then the note might be like, this isn't funny. And if you can figure out a different way to fix the thing, if the thing that they suggested isn't working, like you can, you really need to kind of not only just follow directions blindly, but you need to understand why that thing is being requested. Like, what is the problem that you're trying to solve? Because if the thing that the client suggests doesn't work, then you might need to come up with some other creative way to answer the problem. That's just me chiming in on Melissa's point. I would also say one of the things that I learned to do really early on was I treat even the nicest people like they are the meanest people. It's one of those things that because I sort of pretend that everybody is super particular and that they're going to be really upset with me if I make if I do something sloppy, because I think a lot of the time, and this is a thing at Henson that's very true, is everyone at Henson is very nice and we're all really friendly and positive and everybody's having a great time. That does not mean that you have an excuse to just act really casually about stuff. You need to sort of put yourself like you want to treat everybody with the absolute top of the line level of care. And that's something that I try to tell all my people to do, all my coordinators and stuff. So that's something that I think is helpful advice, just to remember, like, this person deserves, just because this person's really nice to me does not mean that they don't deserve for me to do my absolute best work for them, And then I think also for artists, the main thing for artists is just make sure your portfolio is very good. That's really like you can almost do like anything else, but if your work is amazing, someone's going to notice you. Have a really high standard for everything you do. Like, look at your portfolio and you say, like, would I see this on TV? If you wouldn't see it on TV, then, just keep at it. Like, and you can having that really critical eye for your own work. As long as it doesn't totally shut you down creatively, because that can also happen. Just keep going, like keep making stuff, keep going, and you will get better. And having a really high standard, when people see your work, they will notice that you have taken that extra care for it.
Gosh, y'all are like truth bombing today, and I appreciate it more than you understand. Just like, here's some great advice, and here's some great, like, if people aren't watching, they're missing out. Just gonna throw that out there. I'm gonna be sharing this literally everywhere to everyone. Okay, so Jeremy, I cannot wait for your insights.
There's so many, and I'll give you one like business one, and I'll give you one personal one. The business one, how it relates to how I do my job, especially in themed entertainment. When I built our themed entertainment business many years ago, and I started having conversations and meeting people in the themed entertainment industry, I realized how nice everybody is and how genuine and how open people were to meeting with us and getting to know us. And the one thing I quickly realized, and it's a philosophy that I use in how I carry out my job day to day in business development, is I want to build genuine relationships. It's not about I want to get to know you because I want to figure out how we can get that project. It's I want to get to know you because I want to know what you're about. Like what's your company about? What do you guys want to do? What are your hopes and dreams with the projects, and just in general? One thing I can say is I've built so many friendships from themed entertainment than I could have ever imagined. And then on a personal note, one of the things that I've really learned, and one of my key learnings in how I do my job is things never move as fast as you want them to. There's an ebb and flow to everything. You can do as much as you want to speed it along, but there is an ebb and flow to everything. So, do your work, do your part, and then go along for the ride. And the biggest thing is trust your team. You can't do everything on your own, but definitely trust your team, because there's so much talent in the teams that you work with.
Amazing advice. And related to that, what would you say is something that you wish you had known sooner going into the industry of entertainment? Anyone want to start?
I can start. One thing I wish I'd known sooner is, when I first started out, I didn't really understand that you have to sort of be kind of aggressive when you're looking for work. You have to nurture those connections. And I would feel shy and kind of awkward about hey, you should hire me. I have all these things I can do, and I felt like, oh, well, that's going to be weird. If I ask my friend for a job, then that's that's cheating, and all that kind of weird feeling that you have when you're first starting out, like the insecurity. One way that I kind of got over that was I tried to think about people want to work with people that they like. People want to work with their friends. It's not like nepotism. It's oh, that person is smart and pleasant to be around, and we're going to have a great time working. Obviously you want to work with them. So it's not like you're tricking anybody. And also I would say that when you are looking for a job, you can put it in the terms of, don't put oh, I need money, I need to have a job, please. Think about it in terms of hey, I've got all this cool stuff I can do and I can help you out with it. I can bring all kinds of stuff to the table, and I would love to help you. I would love to be there to be part of your team. And that's not something you need to feel shy about. Don't feel insecure about putting yourself out there.
Very great advice.
I love that.
I love that.
Yeah. I just to jump on that, I think that, I did not include this in my introduction about myself, but when I, was first freelancing in New York, I did a lot of PA work, which is not glamorous at all. And I loved it because I liked driving a cube truck around the city streets in New York. I don't mind dragging the trash out of a bin and out to wherever. I am interested in grip equipment and don't mind running errands and doing things like that, making the lunch order flow smoothly. Also, I don't know, I took it on as a interesting thing. And so I ended up meeting people. So I think my advice on that note is that it led me to all the relationships and all the other jobs that have stayed with me for the past 20 plus years. Those kind of roots of kind of grunt work, because I met people and made connections. And I think that, I could have said, over the years, I would kind of bounce back to PA work. Not anymore, but I have a full-time job, and not in the recent years before I worked at Henson, but for years I bounced back to PA work, and I always met people, and it always led to something. I think work leads to more work. Saying no to something or waiting for the perfect fit, I'm not sure where that leads. So that's kind of my work advice. And then I think as far as like a manager and managing projects, I think I have a tendency to really push through and railroad groups into just working right away, getting to it and meeting deadlines, when I think that it's not a waste of time to do a little bit of team building. So that's my advice to myself. It always feels like the minute you start, you're already behind. And so, I'm like, you're in that position, you're doing that, you're responsible for that. Let's go, everybody, go. And then, but instead, maybe I wasn't right about, one person doing one aspect, and, maybe we can flow a little bit differently than I had imagined it, and imagine the project a little differently than I am pushing on the team.
I think that's been especially hard in the era of COVID, because you just don't have the in-person interaction with people anymore that you normally do.
Yeah. And maybe people are even working remote, which is like a really extra complicated thing. We did not stop working.
Yeah.
Straight through lockdown in New York City, I had people working on puppets all over the place just to get projects done and to keep things moving forward and to keep projects happening. So it was a real testament to our fabricators' passion for the work, to really be able to, work under those circumstances.
So, Jeremy, do you have any sort of advice, things you wish you had known sooner?
Oh, totally. Kind of going back to my point about like things don't always happen as fast as you want them to happen. I actually learned it before I got to my position at Henson. Was you need to understand the process because you might be going, you yourself might respectively be moving a million miles a minute. But you have to respect and understand the process. So one of the things that when I joined Henson and I was tasked with developing new projects for us, I needed to understand the different processes that were involved in what we do. So I spent time with our teams. I really tried to understand it. I tried to understand how long it takes them, how many people actually put their hands and their artistry into something that's being made, so that in my mind, I can build out my timeline. And it served me so well because I was able to have conversations with clients, in the moment versus saying, let me check with my team. Let me find out from my team. We can make that happen. Like, I know that it's X amount of weeks for us to create a character, or X amount of weeks in the mold process. Then from there, the finishing process and fabrication process. Like I really immersed myself the first 2 months that I had this job in 2009, and really tried to understand how we create things. And then from there, I went on this learning curve, and I'm still learning constantly every day because we're constantly innovating. So I'm always trying to catch up to my teams and trying to understand what it is that they're doing, how long it takes them, how many people are involved, because it just arms me better as a business development person out there trying to get people introduced and excited about what we're doing.
Excellent advice. So segueing into things you wish you had known, what about any advice for young professionals or people wanting to come into your particular industry? What would you say to them? Any sort of key facts, any sort of key points you want to tell them? And go ahead.
Actually, I have something I meant to say, which is just that don't wait to be hired. If you want to do something, do it. You want to be a puppeteer? Put a sock on your hand. You want to make a puppet? Fire up your glue gun. You want to write? Start writing. Don't get hired. Don't wait to get hired to the perfect project. Just do it. And you know what will happen? Especially if you live in New York, but I have a feeling these communities are everywhere. People will gravitate toward you and your creative energy and your project. And you're going to find collaborators, and those are going to be lifelong friendships and partnerships for your work.
Like our producer Caitlin is saying in the background, "Preach, Melissa, for real!" Like,
yeah, I
oh
did
my
all
God.
that stuff. I made the puppets. I wrote the show. I got my friends to do a thing in the park, and then we got hired, and then the thing led to the thing, led to the other thing, and then all of a sudden, this is your life. And like, and you know what? Maybe
You
you'll find
have
out a
two
lot.
friends doing like it.
Yeah, which I did find out their names: Toodle and Timp. This one right here is Toodle, and this one is Timp, just for anyone who was wondering.
I love them.
Oh my gosh, that is wonderful. Okay, so oh my gosh. So yes, Jeremy or Ari, do either of you have any advice for newcomers?
Harry, you want me to
People
go
hoping
first?
to.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of touched on a lot of that already. But yeah, like make sure your portfolio is really good. is really a big part of it. That's
Well,
I think
we
for
could,
newcomers, like the biggest thing is when you come into this business, be willing to wear many hats, because if you're willing to wear many hats, you become indispensable. And like the hats can be in various degrees, right? They don't always have to be like this top level thing, kind of to Melissa's point, where like be okay, like when you're breaking in, like cleaning around the shop and like organizing the shop, or finding something to do that makes the operation better. Because what ends up happening is the people that you're working with take notice of that, and really kind of what you find more often than not is someone's willing to take you under their wing and show you the ropes and how things and get you involved at a bigger scale on projects. So it's something has served me well in my career, and I know it's done the same for Ari and Melissa, because they wear many hats. To that point, like our company is a company that we like to say we're small but mighty. That like when people think of the Jim Henson Company, I think there's this like misconception that we're this like really large company with hundreds and hundreds of employees. I think our core staff is like somewhere between like 60 to 85 in the whole company, and there's and within that group there's our senior management and executive group, and I think everyone within the company wears many hats. And the reason why we're able to do what we do is like we take on that challenge, and we welcome it to wear many hats, because it all like synchronizes to this like machine of creativity and production that I think that we all want to get behind.
I love that. That is so true. I just hired someone who's out here to organize we were kind of got disorganized during COVID. So I hired someone who had worked with us as a fabricator to come in and help us kind of get organized, right? Now he's moving into puppet wrangling. Next, he's moving into our props department. We really find a place for people that have the right attitude and are not, focused on just one thing. So here, Jeremy.
And I can
How?
sorry?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say I can revisit the portfolio thing a little bit if anyone's interested. So I would say portfolios, first of all, show them to a lot of people, see what people think. Because I think like your friends will say like, oh, I don't really get that. Why is that there? Be careful not to accidentally take credit for something you didn't do. You have to be really careful about that. A technique I've seen done is like, if you want to show like a screenshot from a show that you made something on, you can make everything black and white, and then you can kind of just make the thing that the part that you did can be in color, and you can notate like, okay, this is the thing that I did, because you don't want to accidentally, that's a big no-no. Don't take credit for something that you didn't do, even by accident. Be careful with that. It's good to show some range. Also, consider your audience. If you are applying for a job on a kids show, make sure that the first page of your portfolio is not a bunch of scantily clad ladies. Like you have to be, you can certainly tailor the work that you submit to the job that you are applying for. Because I think, people want to kind of visualize, like, can this person do the thing that I need them to do this time? And so that's another thing that you can think about. Also, don't show like 5 different pictures of the same thing. I've noticed that a lot. People will do like 5 very slightly different versions of one image because they can't decide which one they like the best. If you can't decide which one of them is the best, that means they're probably about the same level of quality. So you should probably just pick one, because it will be more impactful to just have like one image that is amazing. And then, I think, what else? I think that was it. Yeah. And, work in progress photos are interesting, and they do have their place, but that would be like a secondary section of a portfolio. That's sort of if you need to fill stuff out, and like you want to make it really clear what the difference is between this is the thing that is done, and this, I love this, and this is how I intended it, versus here's the work in progress, because you don't want people to mistake the work in progress for the final. Yeah.
Okay, so I have several questions, but I'm going to stick to just the ones on our list because I don't want to catch anybody weirdly off guard. I'm going to start with Jeremy, and then we can rotate through because I'm really interested to hear y'all's answers. What are some things that excite you about starting a new project?
Ooh, that's a great question. For me, it's starting that like creative collaborative process, like where you've got the creatives on the client side and the creatives on our team, and they're kind of like, they get together either in person or on this call, and you kind of see the chemistry. Like I get such a kick out of that. Like when I see that vibe and connection between our creatives, I know we're in a good place. Like, one, I know that my team's going to enjoy working on this project. I know that the clients are really happy because they're getting what they came for, which is that Henson creative. When we start this process, it's one of my most exciting times in any projects outside of like closing the deal and getting the job and passing it over to my team. It's really that beginning portion. It's very exciting for me. It's one that I'll relish as long as I'm doing this job.
That's so beautiful. Literally. Ari, what are some things that excite you when you start new things?
2 big things. The first one is, I love the design portion of the start of a project where you have to, everyone starts making decisions about things that are going to be true for the entire show or the entire project. And you'd be surprised at how much detail we have to go into for that. Like, you have to make such tiny decisions, like how thick are the lines going to be around this character? Or like, how many fingers are they going to have? Like, what does a blink look like? Like all these little tiny details that end up being super important. And that's always really fun to kind of go through that and see how that affects the show as a whole. My second thing that I love about starting projects, I love hiring people. I love getting to call people and say, hey, I got a job for you. And then people get excited. That's really fun. It's always really rewarding to get to do that.
That's awesome. And now Melissa.
I love hiring people too. I call it matchmaking when I'm just like picking like who's the right person to go with that person to do that part. I really enjoy that. And I think it really helps make the project a success. But I love beginning projects, and I love doing something new creatively. And that to me is really exciting. And I love characters. So that's like just getting to know the character that the client has in mind, and then being a part of shaping that in whatever way, if it's the, to the color, to the personality, or if it's just like the, material used for the mouth plate. It's like all those pieces are crucial, integral parts of making that character something unique and something really compelling. So I love that. And then I was going to say, it's so exciting to have a big budget, but I think it's actually really exciting to have a small budget, because that's when we have to really challenge ourselves. And, everyone says I need a certain amount of time for it, but what would you do and how would you change it if you had a little less time? And so, or could we use a different person, or could we use an existing material instead of, custom something or this and that, it just like really gives us, when you have that challenge of the restrictive budget, then you really get to kind of shake things up and see, how can we do this? How can we do it differently than we think we would have done it? So.
Thank you so much. Like, that's awesome. Kathy, do you have a?
All right, I'll take the next question. So what was an obstacle you faced in your career, and how did you overcome it? And I guess I'll start with Melissa. I mean, you've already touched upon this a little bit in terms of the breadth of your career, and starting in PA and going through and starting with the sock puppets and doing shows with your friends. But let's start with you.
Well, it's hard, an obstacle. I mean, I guess maybe one obstacle is that I did find myself doing a lot of the same kind of work. And, so this is when I applied for this job, I was feeling a little like a cog in the machine, and not really so much like I was making decisions of influence, even though I was creating shows and performing and things like that. But there can be something about performing that is very kind of, every time the same. So I really shook things up by, taking a moment and looking inside and thinking about what I wanted to do next. And I really wanted to do something like what I'm doing now. And so I guess that's overcoming that obstacle. But then the other obstacle is that I'm remembering they did not offer me this job when I interviewed, and I had to just convince them that I was the right person.
Ari.
I guess I sort of touched on this before. One of the obstacles I had to overcome is I've never been very good at networking. Like getting started was especially like difficult. I just felt weird reaching out to people and, all that kind of stuff. One of the things I did like in my early 20s when I was trying to really, get some traction was I started a weekly karaoke night. And I would just invite all my friends that I knew from work, like to this weekly karaoke night. And I did that for, several months at this place they'd do like dollar tacos and karaoke. So it was like very informal. And that actually, I think that not only was that just like a fun thing to do, it really kind of, it loosened everything up and was something like, oh, it's just a weekly casual thing. It's not like a networking event. It's just a fun time that people can go to. And people want to go to like just a fun casual night with friends. That's not a hard ask. So that was one strategy. Like just create your own networking events. There's no need to, wait for some weird conference or something to come along, you know, just have fun.
Jeremy.
You
to
know, I always answer this question, you know, about obstacles you faced in your career and how did I overcome it. It's for me, it's an important question because you know, I moved out here from back east, trying to build a career, and when I applied for this job, I made it to top 3 initially, and I actually didn't get the job. So there was this period before, like, I did end up getting the job 6 months later, but there was this period of like 6 months or so where I really had to figure out how to keep myself out, you know, in Los Angeles and to be able to stay out here, because I came out here like most people, with a dream and a little bit of savings. And you know, if you have a little bit of savings, you're lucky. And all of that savings had gone away by the time I got this. By the time I applied for this job that first go around, and I really had to like gut check myself and figure out other ways to you know, and other industries to make money. And I did that. And when I finally did get the job 6 months later, I realized that it was a gut check in that I had to ask myself, how badly do I want this? I think for everyone who wants to break into any kind of business, you have to ask yourself, how badly do you want this? What are you willing to do to make it happen? Because if you keep your eyes on your goal and you look at it incrementally, like, okay, what does this move allow me to do to get to this next step? And I think if you constantly ask yourself, how important is this to me? You know, how does this change my life? And how much of this is who I am? I think that's it'll help you overcome any obstacle.
That's such amazing insight. Like it really is, especially like leaving 2020 and 2021 behind now that we're in the second half of 2021. I think a lot of people needed to hear that, including me. If anyone in the viewing audience would like to ask a question, now is the time. I have one last question for like me. What is your management or creative philosophy? Like your just personally. Ari, I hate to like throw you up to the wolves at like first go, but I really want to hear it.
Oh man, I have so many of them.
Hear them all.
I would say, I mean, a lot of the time it's important to just enjoy where you are and have gratitude and appreciation for the projects you're able to work on. That's really important to me, and I think like it's really tempting to kind of live in the future all the time. But you know, if you're going to be effective at managing and doing creative stuff, you need to sort of be in the moment. You need to be present, and you need to sort of not be kind of in your own world.
Okay, Melissa, would you like to take a go?
Yeah, it's hard to boil it down to one, but
no, right? I was like, one of them.
I mean, this is maybe
you can share all of them.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to share one. Listen until people are done talking. Because I have a lot of, you know, I'm a manager, so people. Oh no, I didn't mean that as a thing to you. It's so hard on Zoom, by the way. But
yeah.
No, I more mean like, you know, people come into my office and want to talk, and I need to listen. So there's that. I have to remind myself. Also, I have a lot to say. I like to talk. I'm one of 5 kids, and I'm just like, I've always been talkative, and so I'm ready to say something. So I need to listen. That's my one advice. I mean, I would say also, you know, start where you are. And, if you make a mistake, admit it, and then just fix it and move on, improve. Let's not make that mistake again, and because it has happened to me and I do not like it. But, when it does, I have to admit it and, and fix it. And then I love the find joy. That's totally true. My God, I am so fortunate to work in one of the most exciting, magical spaces in the world, I can say, without exaggerating. There are people with their hands working and building puppets right outside my office door right here. And I feel so fortunate to know them and to see them and to be a part of it. And to walk out there and, spout off about my opinion about what's happening. And then I also have a poem on my bulletin board here that's by Rumi, and it's called Why Cling? And I just love it because I'm just going to say the first sentence, but it's why cling to one life until it's soiled and ragged. And I just think it's so important to, you see yourself a certain way or you see a project a certain way. And I think it's really important to just kind of shake that off and to really be kind of open to other people and other input and new experiences and, all that stuff. Every day is a new day and you just have to start where you are. So that's my advice.
Good
philosophy.
I actually have one that I just remembered.
So beautiful.
A big thing that I always try to remember is to have a growth mindset, which, it's really easy to, like, every time you make a mistake, go, oh my God, I'm so stupid. How could I do this? But really every time you make a mistake, you kind of have to reframe it mentally as a moment of like, wow, I learned something from that. Isn't it a wonderful opportunity that I just got to learn that is not the way to do it, and then you look at it as like, okay, that's an opportunity to learn. And now I know that. And now I am stronger because of it, as opposed to like, I'll never get this right. It's easy to kind of like wail and gnash your teeth at yourself. But, again and again, just remind yourself, like, mistakes are, they are what will make you good ultimately.
That's awesome. All right, Jeremy.
I like the Melissa and Ari both said, there's so many, like the staples for me are, I think be a problem solver, like there's always going to be issues that come up, and I'm always there to help as a manager and a supervisor. But when you bring a problem to me, come with solutions. Don't just come running into the office and tell me that there's a problem and expect me to figure out how to fix it. Like, come in with multiple solutions on how we can how we can fix the problem. And more often than not, that person has come up with the solution and has just asked me to give it a thumbs up and go make it happen. And like that like it's been one of my big management styles and philosophies. There's always going to be like obstacles and roadblocks and challenges in any project. So if you can figure out the problems to the solution, the solutions to the problem. I'm sorry, we can work together to figure out the best course of action. Another one for me is really appreciate and enjoy what you do. Right. We have the great fortune of being able to work and play in the land of make-believe. And trust it from a guy who could have had a life as an attorney, a boring life as an attorney, to now, having this career where I get to work with amazing artists every day, create characters, help create worlds, create content that people get to enjoy and consume. I always tell people that we're lucky to be able to plan in this land of make believe. But what we're doing isn't rocket science or brain surgery. Yes, there's budgets and there's timelines, but enjoy what you do, because if you're enjoying what you do and you have passion for what you do, the outcome will always be greater. and it'll always have the best result. And I think the last like logistical thing is there's not enough time in the day, and you need to accept that. Like you can't do everything on your own. And I hope Ari and Melissa, having worked with them for so long, see this about me, is that like learn how to delegate, learn how to trust your team, because you can't do everything on your own. And when you try to do everything on your own, you're letting potentially multiple balls and initiatives drop.
Oh my gosh, that is literally the best wrap up that I could possibly hope for. Just speaking from personal experience, like, you know, I always want to just get it done. Like I'm just gonna do it myself and just get it done. But being able to rely on your team, it, you know, it kind of goes to trusting your team. God, y'all, the three of y'all have just been like mind-blowingly amazing, and I'm so appreciative. I know Kathy is. All of us here at A Day of the Life and all of our viewers are so thankful to have had you on. Just claps and applause. Like I wish we had like canned applause and like a studio audience or something to give you all the accolades. Or you know, Caitlin's in the background giving applause. So appreciate that. So thank you again from all of us here. I cannot wait to see what y'all get up to next. Just so jazzed. Oh, thank you. Sorry, I have no. God, like that's the best. I just literally I don't think I could end in a better place than y'all's advice. So thank you. So.
Well, thank you so much
Bill.
for having
I
us.
love Bill.
Yeah.
Thank
This
you.
has been so much fun, guys.
Yeah, it's been fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much.